Hello, folks. Welcome to this special edition of the Manly Pinterest Tip Show. I'm Jeff C., and you're not. And thanks for joining us, everybody. As always, I'd love for you to head over to manlypinteresttips.com, subscribe to our email community so you'll never miss an awesome show like we have today. I am so excited to have the chance to talk today with Mr. Guy Kawasaki and Peg Fitzpatrick. If you don't know who these two people are, you need to come down off your dinosaur and join the future. Guy has been a chief evangelist for companies like Apple, Motorola, and most recently one of my favorite online tools, Canva. And Guy has written some great books like The Art of the Start and Enchantment. Peg Fitzpatrick is a social media strategist and popular blogging writing on her own website and across the web. Peg has spearheaded successful social media campaigns for Motorola, Audi, Google, and Virgin. And personally, much, if not all, my success on Pinterest is probably because of her. So, Art of the Social Media is her first book. So, Guy and Peg, thanks so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I love being on the Manly Pinterest Tip Show.
I know. This is like your third appearance, I think. It's pretty awesome.
I know. Am I the most frequent guest on your show?
Well, I think of now you are. You are. Yeah. Pretty cool. If for people in our live audience, go ahead and start asking questions of Peg and Guy, and we'll try to pull them up during the show. But I'm going to just kind of jump right in. For people who haven't seen any of your hangouts about this book before, kind of give us the big picture of what this book is about, and who it's for. Peg, why don't you go first?
Me? Oh, Guy's so much better at answering that question.
Okay, then have Guy go first. Whoever. I just didn't want to.
Oh, Peg, you go.
Okay, I'll go. Okay, so the art of social media, basically, so here's the deal. All the time we get asked how we do what we do. That's a really frequent question. Like, how do you do everything that you do on social media? And it's not like you can tweet that or, write a blog post to explain enough of that to actually, help. And so what we did was we took, a lot of our best, I want to call them best practices, because we don't tell people what to do on social media or how to do it. We each have our own way of doing things. And so we boiled down our best tips and practices. We took out all the fluff, and because Guy's a very straightforward writer, so like I'll write a whole big chapter and then Guy will edit it to like a 3-point tip.
Not that many, fewer than that.
Okay, so it'll start with an action word and it'll be like three words, and that's for my page. No, I'm kidding. But we wanted to be able to take all the experience that we have to help other people learn how to use social media, and we don't believe in gurus or people who profess, like, tell you what to do, like you have to do this stuff and you have to do this, and it's really, social media is personal and it depends on what your goals are and what you want to do. Some people just use it for their own personal social media, just to talk to other people, and some people are doing it as a job, and some people are working for companies doing their social media. So we tried to cover like a variety of different ways that we use social media with our best tips and suggestions.
Awesome answer. Now, Guy, I know on Jason's hangout you said it was to sell books, but really, so who would you say the audience is for? Is this for anybody interested in social media, or how would you say who you wrote this book for?
Anybody with $20. We want a broad market. Seriously, we want to empower people to use social media better. Like Peg said, there's no fluff in this book. There's no duh-isms. There's no, be transparent, be open, be honest, be engaging. I mean, if you don't know that, don't buy this book. Go read something simpler. So this is power tips for power users. It's meant to be very tactical, very practical, kind of a checklist. Fix your avatar, fix your cover photo. This is how you curate. This is how you comment. This is how you socialize the media. This is as practical and tactical as it gets. There's no duh-isms, no fluff in this book.
Yeah, I think, for me, just like What the Plus was kind of my primer I used when I first started at Google Plus, I think this is a great kind of, here's where you start. I mean, this is great stuff for people who are interested in social media. In fact, a lot of my people who are going to, I know, ask questions, and I can give them and point them right to this book. So I've been very impressed with it, especially because I'm in it. But But
Jeff saw it in his local bookstore this weekend.
it was very cool. Yeah, I posted it to Instagram and everything and gave it to my
You
parents.
buy one?
Yeah, I actually bought the right here, this one, and also the Kindle edition, just because the links are so great.
Yeah.
And I was going to talk about this later, but one of the things I did is I went right to the Pinterest section, because you can go to the index and they have it, it's all broken down, and I went through it and went, okay, I'm doing that. I need to do that. Oh, I'm going to try that. And so I think there's some, I mean, even if you've been doing this for a while, there's tons of things that can spur some, some great brainstorming things for other platforms or stuff you need to be doing. So that's what I kind of found out with the index.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's kind of proof. We try to make a really valuable book. We're into like exceeding people's expectations. So.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was pretty cool. So I gave it already to my parents and some other people. So I want to kind of. I asked this question in Kelly Lieberman's Pin Chat group, and I got some great questions to ask you. And this one's from Melissa Will, and she says, when you were doing research for this book, what are some examples of people or brands that you really saw that were doing it really right on social media?
Peg, go ahead. Answer first.
Okay, so brands that I really like on social media. I love HubSpot. HubSpot doesn't, of course, they are marketing and content marketing and just straight up marketing, but they do a fantastic job of providing huge amounts of value. They ask you for your email address, but they give you a huge amount of value. They make ebooks, infographics, their blog posts are outstanding. We published one with them last week that I love, and I'm like honored that they would have us post there, because I think HubSpot puts out amazing content. The Buffer blog is a huge resource. They do great stuff on there. They do more research for their blog posts than pretty much anybody out there. And I love Constant Contact as well. Constant Contact does a great job with their Pinterest boards, on Twitter. And Sprout Social does as well. They connect with people who use their product. They share great content that provides value. Those are all the things that we think help people on social media. So those are the kind of brands that I follow and love.
I would add American Express does a good job. Believe it or not, hard to imagine. A large credit card company does a very good job.
Their Tumblr is outstanding.
Yeah, their Tumblr is outstanding. Virgin America does a good job. Any Virgin property does a good job. Cadbury has beautiful photography. There are some examples, definitely. And Canva, quite frankly, I'm not taking credit for my work because somebody else does it, but Canva has some very high content posts. They do very well there.
Yeah, their blog posts on just helping people learn design are great. So here's a question I wanted to pull up really quick, or a comment from Laura B. Williams from our audience. She goes, I love how Guy Kawasaki and Peg Fitzpatrick encourage us to use social media organically and with intent instead of concentrating on the numbers only. So I think that goes into your whole good stuff, no fluff.
Well, what she's getting at is, our approach to social media is that everything we post should be so good that people will reshare it. And to me, that's the difference between tipping a waiter at a restaurant versus telling people to eat at the restaurant, right? So the latter is what you want. So we're always about trying to post stuff that we think people want to read as opposed to what we want to say. And then every once in a while, like maybe once every year or so, when we come out with a new book or something like that, then we're promoting. Don't get us wrong, man. We promote the hell out of our book. But we're trying to earn that right all year long.
Gotcha. So another question from Melissa Will was, what do you guys think is missing in social right now? If there was something that you kind of could put, I really wish this was happening on social, is there anything that you could put your finger on what's missing in social?
On a product basis or in a big picture?
Big picture.
Oh. Peg, you have to answer that. I'm not a big picture kind of guy. I'm a product kind of guy. I could tell you with great specificity what I wish some products would do.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. Go ahead. We'll transfer to that.
Okay, so number one, Sprout Social. I want Sprout Social to show previews of the pictures that I added to the posts. Because right now I pick a picture and I post on Sprout Social, and I'm just praying that I pick the right picture, not something embarrassing. Buffer, when you are using a smartphone and take a picture, if you attach a picture that's larger than 3 megabytes, it won't post. I think that is just ludicrous. Google Plus, for the life of me, I don't understand why they don't let apps like Buffer and Hootsuite and Sprout Social post to people's personal profiles. They only let you do that with Pages. I think that is just totally flawed reasoning. So that, that's the kind of level that I'm at.
Gotcha.
Peg is a big picture person. Peg, you give him the big picture.
Is she there? I think she's lost. I think we lost Peg. She's frozen.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Either that or she's not moving anymore.
That's right. Peg, if you're going back in.
That's the Peg Wax Museum.
Oh, no.
Oh,
well.
Peg told me that being interactive on social media isn't that important, and this is proof. She's just sitting there, and, not saying anything, not moving. Yeah.
Well, here, while we try to get Peg back in, let me ask another question. I know you and both Peg have mentioned that LinkedIn is going to be super important when companies are looking for what to get in on in the future. You say you got to be on LinkedIn right now.
Yes.
What about Pinterest? This is the manly Pinterest trip. So, do you expect that to continue to grow and that businesses need to get on that?
Well, Peg is the expert in Pinterest, but Pinterest is going to rock, and the reason why it's going to rock is because, well, several. One is that it's so beautiful, that helps. And I have to tell you, the other day, I was at a BlogHer Pro conference, and I asked a question, and I got an answer I just totally did not expect. So the question I asked of the audience, and this is about 150, professional bloggers, I asked, if you were going to look for a recipe, this is right after Thanksgiving, on how to roast a turkey, do you go to Google or do you go to Pinterest? And most of the audience said Pinterest. So that blew my mind because, you think Pinterest equals pictures of shoes and dresses and maybe pictures of food, but not necessarily recipes for food. And more than half the audience said they would go to Pinterest. And if that's the case, that has major ramifications. And I also believe, when someone pins your blog or pins an article that you did, it sort of rises to the top again. So the longest tail for people finding your blog posts is probably Pinterest. It's a very powerful medium.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I first went on to it, because of the ability for my blog posts to have so much, traction, and then I get them repinned later. For example, there's a local business, and it's called Lollipops and Lace. We're in Texas, so it's a local like women's beauty salon. Would you think it'd be better, since they have limited time and they sell women's apparel and kids apparel, for them to be on Pinterest other than getting on, say, like LinkedIn or something like that?
Well, if I were them, I would probably focus on Pinterest and Twitter. Pinterest, for obvious reasons, they can pin great pictures of their clothes, and people can pin from their site their clothes. Twitter, just because of its fast, free ubiquity, they can just blast it out that we have a special trunk show, or we have a special on kids' clothes or boys' clothes on Boys' Day, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So those are the two I would concentrate on if I were that organization.
Gotcha. One of the things I wanted to segue into is I actually pinned it on our on the event page. I know Peg is doing your tips from your book and making pins of those and putting them onto Pinterest. And one of the things that I posted on there was that you say in the book to test everything, and talking with this, Lollipops and Lace or whatever, being able to test everything. How often do you guys test new ideas? Do you revisit, your procedures? Like, I know you tweet X amount of times per day. You do a lot. Do you revisit that and see what needs to be changed?
We test about every 15 minutes, I think, and that's on a slow day when we're kind of taking it easy. Peg has a very, very intellectually curious mind, so we're always trying to optimize. And Peg is back.
I popped back in. I had to restart my router.
Oh, I thought Keen went down.
It did. This hangout was so awesome. We crashed everything.
All of New Hampshire was blacked out for a while there.
Right.
All 5 people on the internet from New Hampshire couldn't get in.
Very funny.
So Peg, how often? I mean, like I was saying, you do it. You really take an analytical view of stuff. How often do you test stuff? I mean, you and I have talked offline. I mean, you test.
Yeah.
I know you test a lot.
I honestly do test all the time. I am never happy with the status quo. I'm always learning. I am interested in everything. It's funny that Guy said that because, you know, now as an adult working with Guy, he's like, she's intellectually curious. This is awesome. That's probably what drove all my teachers crazy when I was in school because I love to learn. So social media is like the deepest topic ever. It's constantly changing and evolving, and you know, PR and marketing and social media are just rolling up into this big, huge communication outlet for the world. So we do test everything all the time. You know, Jeff, I'm constantly testing stuff. Jeff is one of my 2 Facebook friends that I'm constantly pinging with stuff. Rebecca would be the other one. And I can't even help myself from giving Jeff tips all the time. I'm like, hey, Jeff, let's update your bio today. Like, I just am interested and I love it. So as far as like things for the book, we were testing it up until the second that it went live, you know, until we sent it to the publisher, and then we were probably already working on the update a half hour later because we literally do test everything all the time.
Do you have any sort of schedule where you say, okay, I'm going to revisit how many tweets I'm doing? Do you have anything like I'm going to do this? I'm going to check on this once a month or anything like that, or is it just kind of when it happens?
You know, for our social media, for Guy's social media and my social media, I really don't do that. When I'm working for a brand doing things, then I'm more focused on, you know, how much content to share. But you know, Guy shares more content than I do, but we're both of the mind, we're like, if I love this, I'm sharing it. When I learned, you know, way back when I first started on Twitter, I had some people that were like, you tweet too much. You know, you need to stop tweeting so much. And I was like, hey, this is my Twitter. I'm going to tweet as much as I want. And if it's too much for you, if I'm too high volume, then add me to a list or just check me out when you want. But I'm not going to, you know, stop posting too much because you feel like it's too much for you. I think people follow people who they're comfortable with, and some people are more high volume. Kim Garst is another person. She practices social media. She's amazing. She does the same thing that Guy and I do. She likes it. She shares it. She does not worry about quantity because she's posting quality things that she loves. So I have to say, I don't say I should post X amount of times, except for like LinkedIn. I do try to, you know, schedule a certain amount over there. I don't overdo it on LinkedIn. And Facebook, I try to space things out a little bit more just because the algorithm is better if you space it out, but not 3 to 4 hours like it used to be. Really, with the updates coming, you know, once an hour is going to be better than once every 4 hours on Facebook. So everybody's moving to Guy's methods one way or the other. His ideas are always right eventually, so hop on board early and
from your mouth to God's ears, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I did his advice with Twitter, and I've seen my Twitter followers impressed. In fact, for this show, I actually do it in the morning, an hour before, and 5 minutes before the show starts. I mean, so
Yeah.
and I haven't had any complaints about it, so I think it's working. So.
Well, Jeff, I could make the case, if you haven't had any complaints about it, you haven't posted too much. You need to like take it to where you get complaints and then back off. Until you hit that point where you get complaints, don't back off.
Okay, gotcha.
I think with events in particular, people think, well, I tweeted it, you know, last night. Everybody probably already knows, but I think you gain the most traction an hour before, 15 minutes before, right when it's going live. I think those last people are probably the ones that all come.
I mean, if you think about it, you know, how many times do you think Fox advertises that they're going to have the Super Bowl on? You know, once. I mean,
Right.
Not that we're Super Bowl quality, but
We could be.
That's right. We could be. Here's a question.
There are no wardrobe malfunctions on our show.
I hope not.
It's not going to be me. Although, like a half hour before the show started, my hair like exploded. That could have been bad. I had to fix it.
Well, here's a question I want to pull up from my buddy Mike Alton, and he says, "Can you share some Pinterest-specific techniques you use to promote your book?" And I was going to ask this question anyway because I know you use promoted pins, and I kind of wanted to see how that worked out for you.
I'll let Peg answer this because Peg is the womanly Pinterest.
I love Pinterest. Mike, we can't share our secrets with you. I'm sorry.
It's in the book.
Okay, wait. I'll share it with Mike. Okay, so Pinterest. Yeah, I tried. We're doing a bunch of different things with Pinterest. We are using it in coordination with our website. We're posting book reviews so people can check those out. We are doing Pinterest. We're doing tips of the day on Pinterest. So we have a power tips board, and we're sharing those on other social networks, but they're primarily for the Pinterest audience. And we're also doing promoted pins, which, as you know, are new. So that I've been working with, and really I've changed the way that I've pinned almost 100% based on the promoted pin guidelines that they give you. They want a totally different kind of image. They want less text. They don't want hashtags. And I've altered the way that I do my pin descriptions, which I'm sure you've noticed, Jeff, because you're like my pin stalker. Well, although I have to say some people have passed you. You're not stalking me as much anymore, but whatever. So what do you think about the changes in the Pinterest descriptions, Jeff? Let's talk about what you think about it.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. I've got an echo here. So what'd you say again?
What do you think about the changes in Pinterest descriptions?
My whole thing now is to think of mobile first in everything, and so I am trying to craft my pin descriptions and my board descriptions so they will fit in mobile, because 75% of everything is going to mobile. So that's what I'm doing with my pin descriptions.
Yeah, mobile is it's really important to make sure everything is mobile friendly. If you do have text on your images, make sure that it's large enough for people to read but not overwhelming. And yeah, so we're trying, even though we wrote this book and put a lot of amazing stuff in it, I like to come out with something new, with the additional pressure of writing a book about social media. I wanted the social media for the book to be exceptional, because otherwise what right do we have to, who's going to listen to what we have to say? So I've been trying a lot of new things, and on Pinterest especially, because I do feel like bloggers in particular need help with their social media. Surprisingly, blogging and social media are very separate for people. I learned that at the Blogger conferences, where I met tons of really awesome bloggers that just had no idea how to use social media with their blog. They said, Twitter, you should tweet when you have a blog. And I was like, yes, you should definitely start a Twitter account. I should pin my blog post.
It's kind of ironic, huh, that bloggers don't understand social media. Of all groups, you would think they would jump on it first.
But they're separate. We look at things, we look at them connected, but for some people, they write a blog and they put it out there, and that's it. Why do we have such a big echo?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Somebody,
are you using your mic, guy?
I think it's you, Peg. Let me mute you real quick and see if it's you. Okay. No. Can you hear me? Yeah. Peg, it's you, I think.
It's not. I'll say something. No.
Yeah.
Not
Go
me?
ahead. Yeah, you're good. So you can unmute yourself, Peg. Anyway, I'll ask the It's not letting me unmute Peg. That's great. We'll just keep on. Oh.
You know why? Because
Peg
Peg bought an iPhone 6, so now she's all messed up.
You should be back, Peg.
I think it's actually you, Jeff.
It's not. I don't think it's me, because you're echoing, and I turned you off and you were fine. So anyway, let's go to the next question. And one of the things I liked about your book is you had Pinterest with every section. It wasn't just a section on Pinterest. When you talked about any social media or gave any tips on how to, get content or anything like that, you concluded Pinterest in there. And one of the things in, I think it was section 117, you talked about not pinning a personal photo. And I see
Mm.
this happen a lot with new pinners on Pinterest, and they treat it like Instagram kind of a little
Right.
bit. So my question is, what if you're a brand, like Guy Kawasaki? I mean, he's a brand. His image is a brand. Do you still post photos, pins photos with him on it?
Never.
Actually, we tested it. We did test that about a year and a half ago, and they just didn't do anything. And then studies since then have come out. I think Curating was the one that did the study that said faces on Pinterest just don't do well. But it's kind of the whole goal of Pinterest is to pass the reshare test. And why would someone, no offense, Guy, want just a picture of Guy on their own Pinterest board? I mean, it's like, it makes sense. But if it's in something, like for example, I found this really cool marketing guide, and it had Guy's picture, but it was like kind of posterized, and I think it was on Quick Sprout Guide to Marketing. It was like the Kawasaki Guide to Marketing, and I was like, cool. That actually was popular. So it depends on how you do it.
You know,
I think if it's part of everything, then it's okay, but not your personal photos. It's not Instagram.
the only person we've seen who can pull this off. I mean, it takes not only a celebrity, but it takes a celebrity with great pictures. So, for example, you know, Jay Leno has a Pinterest board of his pictures of his cars, right? And so that is inherently very interesting. But posting a picture of, you know, Jay Leno, what he had for breakfast, is not nearly as useful. So I think, generally speaking, I don't remember the last time I posted a picture that I took on Pinterest.
Unless it's Bane.
Yeah, well, yeah, Bane could, but
If it's
more,
dog photos, Guy has an awesome pug board because he has the cutest little pug dog ever, and those are on there. But they're mixed in with like a whole bunch of other little pugs. So.
yeah, but you know, like my pictures of Bane are just as good as Jay Leno's pictures of his Ferrari. So.
Gotcha.
Definitely.
Well, here's another question I wanted to. This is from Melissa Will, and she says, how content is found? How do you find content for sharing pinning, and you know what specific tools you use to collect, to prepare, whatever? And I know you mentioned that in your book, but can you just give some quick examples of that?
Well, I'll give Peggy's answer because I'll just show you how much I listen to her. Peggy will say that her favorite application is Feedly, and she has all these things set up in Feedly, and it constantly flows in great content, and that's what she uses. Right, Peggy? Did I just answer what you were going to say? Yes. Okay. So what I use is Alltop. So Alltop is a site that I co-founded, and it's an aggregation of RSS feeds organized by topics. And so every day I check autos.alltop because I love cars, photography.alltop, and I have something called My Alltop, which is it's a subset of the entire Alltop world of more than 1,000 topics, where I've picked just a few RSS feeds that I think are the richest vein. So, like for example, I find most of my stories on Fast Company, Wired, NPR, Design Taxi is another one. It's those kinds of places. So, you know, just FYI, Peg and I are constantly on the hunt for great content because we constantly have to share. And that's something that some people, they have to wrap their minds around it. This is not something that's casual, you know, this is like a business. Right. So we always are looking for stuff.
I'll tell you, one of my favorite things to you is you send out that email, the Help a Socialist Out.
Yeah.
That is a great resource that I get every day in my mailbox, that there's just great articles on there. And so I use that quite a bit to even find pinnable images or articles I want to share to my audience. And so if you haven't signed up for that, that's worth signing up for.
Yeah, so, you know, let me explain more about that. So Peg and I needed a system, or I needed a system. So what happens is I'm kind of an insomniac. I sleep with an iPad or a Nexus 7 next to me, and then sometimes in the middle of the night I'll just go to Alltop and find stuff, but I don't want to wake up and post it then. So what I do is I needed a sort of a tickler file. So we created this Tumblr thing where it's very easy, whether you're in iOS or Android, to just send this article link to Tumblr, and the next morning I'd wake up and actually do the posting or have somebody post it for me. And then I thought, well, you know, why don't we be open and transparent, like all the experts say. So I thought, well, why don't we make our Tumblr tickler file public so that other people can see what we're about to post and piggyback our curation. And then Tumblr has this ability to work with MailChimp. So people like you, Jeff, have subscribed to a MailChimp newsletter that reflects our Tumblr tickler file, and we're just doing it for the benefit of mankind, that everybody get greater content.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great thing, so I would recommend people sign up. Real quick, I want to ask one last question, and then I want to get back to the actual book and some questions about the book. Curating versus creating content. Pinterest excels, and some people even said that's what it's all for, is just curating content. What ratio do you use, and Peg, you might be able to pop in on this one and answer, for creating versus curating, especially on Pinterest?
I pin way more than I create on Pinterest, but if I find content that does not have good images, I do create really good images, because I don't pin things that don't look good on Pinterest because they're not going to do well. It could be the most well-written post I've ever read, but if it doesn't have the right size image, it's just not going to do well. So in a sense, those are kind of my content and curated. It's kind of a little hybrid thing. But I only write 1 or 2 blog posts a week, one on my blog and maybe a guest post or something somewhere, and everything else that I pin is other people's content. So, but everything that I do create original anywhere, I do share on Pinterest, because 80% of the things are repinned. So anything that's original goes into that 20% of new content that's fresh. So I like to make sure that I'm adding, whatever I create, whether it's a video or a slide share or a blog post, I do add that to Pinterest.
Gotcha. Guy, how often do you create content? I know you have a LinkedIn thing that went out today, I saw it today. How often do you create content?
On Pinterest or anywhere? Anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Basically, whenever Peg tells me, I write something. So roughly once every 2 weeks or so. I mean, that's about it, right, Peg?
Yeah, we have a little bit more right now because we're working on things for guest posting, but and we will have more coming out too. But Guy stopped writing on his own personal blog a long time ago. And it is hard to write books and blog at the same time. That is a challenge.
Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, I don't have it in me. So, for a while I was really active in blogging, and I ran out of ideas. I mean,
I never run out of ideas.
Yeah, well, you're younger than I am.
I'm younger than you are. Not that much. Well, I'm not that much younger than you, but I hope I still have ideas.
Here's a question for you, Guy, from my buddy Nazim. He goes, was this book easier to write than Ape?
Wow. It probably was easier because Ape required so much research. And this book, I mean, Ape required research because there were things that I was not doing in self-publishing, like using certain websites or stuff that I had to learn about those websites. But with this book of Art of Social Media, this is what I do every day. So, and this is what Peg does every day. So we were just, vomiting out our knowledge, which is different than gaining knowledge.
That being said, we did research a lot of new things. We did a lot of research. It's just, it was a little bit more, self-publishing is very deep. They're both very deep topics.
Good point. And here's another question from Ken Montville. He says, since the social media platforms are always changing, is there automatic updates to this book? I'm assuming he means the Kindle edition.
That is an interesting question. I hope so. It's kind of up to the publisher. One of the downsides of being traditionally published is they operate on a different schedule and mindset, whereas a self-publisher, we could revise this every day, right? So that's to be determined. I hope so. It's one of those things that the more successful the book, the more likely they'll revise it. the more we revise it, the more likely it'll be successful. Like right now, for example, in the book, I can tell you that we have a way of how you can run a Google Plus poll, right? So in the old days, you put a question up, you tell people to +1 the answer that you like, then you'd go into comments, you put each comment would be an answer, then you would turn off comments so people couldn't comment. All they could do is +1 the comment that they liked. Well, now Google Plus has polling built in, so that part of the book is wrong already.
Gotcha. Well, we are kind of at the end of our time. Do you guys want to say anything else? I mean, I know the book is available. It was available at my local bookstore. It's available on Amazon. What else would you guys like to say on promotion? I mean, it's a great book. I recommend it to everybody. What else would you guys like to say about this book?
I think, I hope people will learn more about the book. We have a website called artofsocial.com.
Art.social.
Oh, Art of, yeah, geez, my God. I told you I'm going to see now. Artof.social. And at the top of that website is the SMART quiz. SMART stands for Social Media Aptitude and Readiness Test. And so you take this test, and if you score really well, don't buy the book. But if you score poorly, buy the book. And for those of you who work with an agency, an outside agency of experts who are doing your social media, our suggestion is you call up your agency and you tell them to take the test and let you know what they scored. And then you'll decide that you don't want to use an agency anymore, and you're going to do it yourself, having read the book.
Yeah, and that test is a lot harder than you think it is.
Jeff wouldn't tell me what his score was.
And I'm sorry we're out of time, so we're going to have to go. Yeah, it was tough. I mean, it's not as easy as you think it would be. So, anyway, I think thanks so much to both of you for being here today. I really appreciate you taking the time and fighting through technology echoes and all that stuff. As always, I'd love for you guys to go over to manlypinteresttips.com, click on the sidebar, subscribe to the email community so you'll never miss great shows like we had today with Peg and Guy. Because at Manly Pinterest Tips, we're adding testosterone one pin at a time. See you next time, everybody.
Bye.